Hey, everybody. Welcome in. Welcome in. Happy Friday to everybody. Can you guys hear and see me okay? I'm going to go to the chat real quick here before I bring up our guest. Hello, Uncle Al, Bullfrog 79. Welcome in. Hey, Gwen Broke Cowgirl. Welcome in. Glad to see you here. Thank you, Uncle Al. If you guys could just hold your questions till the end, that would be great, just because I want to give Tiffany a chance to talk about some things, and then we'll definitely have some questions near the end. Hey, Doug and Carolyn at Holman's Homestead. Hello, Lisa Colovi. Hope everybody's doing well tonight. Hey, Dawn Ray B. Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Hey, Charlene Heel. Hello, Cool Gamer. Welcome in. Appreciate you guys all being here. Hey, Vineyard Chicks, my friends. I hope you're doing well. Awesome. Awesome. You guys can hear and see us. Hey, Mr. Blue Collar Homestead. Hope you're doing well. Hey, Ariella Viking Venture and Victuals. And thank you, Lisa Colovi, for what you're doing already. I appreciate you. So I wanted to get back on track with the Homegrown Live, Homegrown Food Series. And, you know, we've had a bunch of folks, whether from Instagram or from YouTube, and we've talked about a variety of settings, right? And it's all about homesteading where you are. Hello, New York gal, Florida heart. And, or I should say, hello, cat, right? Anyway, so, you know, it's all about just doing the thing, right? If you want to do it, just do it. Hey, Crubby the Beagle, welcome in. So what I really love about our guest tonight, similar to like Slava from Kitchen Garden Therapy, you know, Slava has her area in Illinois where she talked about a lot that she lives in an urban setting and she has those massive, beautiful gardens on a small plot of land. I wanted to talk tonight with Tiffany because I'm going to let her tell you her story, obviously, because I want to respect what she cares to share online. But what I really love about her account is her encouragement and inspiration about just encouraging people to do things where they're at. And that's falls along her lines of her story. And that's what I really love about this, because we all know that there's things that we can do to take control of our, you know, food system, whether it's gardening on a balcony. We've talked many times on these Friday Night Lives about, you know, grow yourself some tomatoes, grow yourself some herbs, do what you can. We all know that you can't do everything. So that is the reason why I wanted Tiffany to come on tonight. Hello, a homesteading hustle, Sarah. Welcome in, welcome in. So if Tiffany is ready back there, I am going to bring her up. So guys, I would like you to meet Tiffany, a crunchy urban homesteader from Instagram. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. And so these lives, we've talked about a variety of things. And I just realized I mentioned Slava and you wouldn't be familiar with her.
No.
So Slava is my kitchen garden therapy. And she has a YouTube channel and she is in a very city-like urban setting in Illinois. She says Chicago, so I feel comfortable saying that. And when you watch her videos, you would be in absolute awe of the fact that she has fruit trees. She has a greenhouse. I mean, this tiny plot of land is packed full of homegrown food. And she's on Instagram too. And when I look at the fact that she not only has room for all these vegetables that she's harvesting, canning, and all that stuff, making herbal tinctures, she is also has room for flowers. So it's just really an incredible thing. And we have talked many a night on these Friday Night Lives about, you know, just doing whatever you can wherever you are. So that's where you come in. So, would you like to give an introduction about yourself?
Sure. So I am originally from upstate New York. Back in 2018, we wanted to change to get out of New York. So we left and headed south and went to Virginia Beach. And that was even worse, although we loved the beach. It was just too much of a city, too many people, no place to really like find home. So we actually back in January moved to Northeast Tennessee. Tomorrow will be 2 weeks that we finally bought our home with 2 acres of land in it. But over the past couple of years, I've been just working on being where I'm at and doing what I can and just learning as much as I can. I have the biggest book collection of all the homestead books and, just wanting to learn what I could, where I could, so that now that I'm here, I am ready.
That's awesome. And I'm just monitoring the chat while we're on the live, just so I didn't want you to think I was being rude to
Okay.
you.
Oh, no.
That is absolutely amazing. And I know I saw some of your content on Instagram, and one of the things you said was you started learning the skills when you were not on your new homestead. Can you explain a little more about that?
So a couple years ago, I started with one of the little tiny, I think it was like 5 or 6 pod gardens. I can't even think of the name of it right now, to grow herbs on my kitchen counter. And I just did what I could because I wanted fresh herbs. And at that time, I had no exterior like porch or patio or anything like that. So I did what I could in my house. I started connecting with the farmers markets and the local farmers. I learned to make bread. I started cooking a lot more. And then once we moved to Tennessee, I had a beautiful back porch. So I spent some money and I bought a tower garden, which held 50 plants. And
Wow.
most of it was failure, if I'm being honest, but I learned a lot and had the opportunity to plant a ton of stuff in a very small space. And I also bought 5 gallon buckets and planted potatoes and just did as much as I could where I could. We all have an easy excuse of why we can't, but I wanted to take the excuse out of the equation and just find a way to make it happen.
Absolutely, absolutely. And don't be afraid to say failure, because we had our first 2 years here in the garden were failure. We were in Connecticut, then we were in North Carolina, and then we moved to South Dakota. And on the eastern coast, the soil is a lot more forgiving and a lot more fertile than it is in South Dakota. And so it's really challenging to grow here. And this was our first good year, and this is our third year here. And we realized that a greenhouse was really the only way we were going to get tomatoes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and the other thing too is you didn't have the outdoor spaces that you needed, but you figured it out instead of saying can't.
Yep.
And that's what it's all about. And I can relate because we only have 2 acres and we raise all our own meat.
That's awesome.
The only time that we go outside for meat is if we buy a local cow, which we did this year because we committed to, but the joke was on us because we have way too much meat and we shouldn't have bought that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's really cool. So what made you want to homestead or made you want to take that leap into a different lifestyle than what you were living?
I grew up with not knowing how to garden. My parents didn't garden. My grandparents didn't garden. Nobody had animals, anything like that. And then I have a 6-year-old son, and having him changed my life and changed my focus on my health and just everything. I look at the future and what I can give him, and wanting to be able to have a little bit of safety. These past couple of years have showed us that we can't rely on the stores, that we can't rely on a lot of things. So I wanted to be able to just learn how to have these things. pray right now that we'll never like come to the situation that I have to survive off my backyard, but I want to at least know that if we need something, I can grow it, or, turn dry an herb and things like that, just to teach my son along also, because it's crazy how in just a couple generations we've gotten so far from growing your own food and doing that. Like my generation thinks the food comes from the grocery store. Like we don't understand what, actually goes into growing and raising and butchering and all of those things.
Very true. Very true. I mean, and it's just so true because we're so far removed from it, and it makes such a world of difference. And, I don't get into current events here, but we all know that there are some challenges with supply chains. So,
Hmm.
especially now with the Mississippi River being so low, and I'll leave it at that. But it's definitely going to be an issue for all of us moving forward. So, you told us how you started, and so right now in your journey, you are at your new homestead,
Hmm.
and so you've been there. You said 2 weeks.
Yep.
Very exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And what are some plans do you feel that you have in store for yourself at your homestead? And we're not going to hold you to it, don't worry, because we know they change.
So my dream list for this property is very long. But I'm starting focusing. I just put in a bunch, well, not as much as I want, but a bunch of fruit trees and bushes. I'm going to begin to work on water collection. I have the items ready for me to start a worm compost bin. And then come the spring, I would love to get some egg layers and some meat birds. I also would really like bees, and my list is very long, but I know I need to go slow. I joked and I was like, the day we moved here, I'm like, let's go get animals. Like, I'm ready. But I know, like, from reading, I know I'm not ready yet for the animals, and I don't want to add in the mix of winter because I don't want to fail just because of the timing. So I figured it would be best to wait, because I do have so much that I want to do. And we don't have any structures, any fencing, anything like that here on our 2 acres. So it's going to take some time to get ready.
Absolutely, and that's smart to do, and that's how we did things. We kind of moved slowly, and we moved faster than I think we initially planned, because every time we said we're not going to do any buildings this year, we did a building. But it just helps you to stay mindful, to just peck away at it, like Sarah at a homesteading hustle said, just peck away at it, and it
Yeah.
makes you more efficient and it makes you better at it. One of the other things that I would offer is I wanted pigs so bad that I bought the first 2 pigs I could find. Now, it wasn't a mistake. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't a mistake. It was part of our plan, but the plan changed. We bought 2 meat pigs, so they were going to be feeder pigs.
Hmm.
So we bought them the end of January, and we had everything set up for them. And then we've changed that pig pen 3 or 4 times because we expanded, because
Hmm.
we knew I was going to have the Kuni pigs, and we knew we were going to breed. And so, yeah, it's easy to get overwhelmed. Some of the people in the chat are saying, and also smart to get your infrastructure in place before you have your animals. That is always the wisest decision, because it's a lot easier to bring home an animal that is going through transition and kind of scared and not sure where it is, but you have a place to put them right in, which makes sense.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. And
awesome.
I've definitely been looking around at different options for structures, and I could go the cheap route, which isn't going to be the long term route. But I feel like if I'm going to put the money in, I want it to be something that I can maybe grow and expand a little bit, or just know that it's going to last me a few years. This past year, I was able to go to a bunch of different friends' farms and like check out their setups and things like that. So I've seen, their step one, chicken coop and then their current chicken coop because the step one, the birds outgrew or it started to deteriorate. So I
Yep.
know, going slow and doing it the right way is what my goal is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, we had barns on our property when we moved in, and we renovated them and made them to what we needed. Part of it was because the renovation was to clean them because they were very disgusting. And so, but ideally, like looking back, what we would ideally love to have is one large barn with stalls for each animals, a coop for the chickens and all
Hmm.
that because of our long winters here.
Hmm.
So it would give the pigs an indoor space to be and that kind of things. But, Gwinnett Broke Cowgirl here is talking about her goat barn went through numerous changes over the years, 2-stall, horse shed, rabbit barn, etc. Sarah at a homesteading hustle said we're on coop number 4 and it's like a tiny house. Yeah, we had a 10 by 10 coop on the property and we cleared it out. We actually made it larger internally because they had isolation boxes on one side, which didn't make sense to me because if you have a sick chicken, you don't want them with the rest of them. But I think it was for introducing chicks also, but there was a lot of them. There were 4 of them.
Hmm.
We tore them out and made an extra roost area, and it worked out great because we can have up to 30 birds in there. So It
Nice.
left us a lot of room to expand. But I agree with you. You definitely want to build something that's going to last versus building the cheaper version that's going to fall apart. And quite honestly, you want to work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
That's a reality.
Yeah, I initially, a couple months back, went to Rural King or Tractor Supply and was looking at their, prefab chicken coops. And I had posted, online asking my fellow homesteaders, like, what do you guys use? And everybody was like, no, don't buy those. Like, they fall apart. They're not good for the weather. I'm like, thank goodness for the community because I probably would have came home with one that day if I hadn't asked people.
And they're super expensive.
Like, yeah.
They're super expensive because we bought one of those coops used from somebody, but I think we got it for $40. So that was a much different picture. And he even gave us the roofing material to fix the roof.
Yeah.
But it's only serving as our grow out coop when we hatch birds versus our actual coop. So it works for us. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Hey there, Mad Acre Farms. Welcome in. And I saw Abundant Acres. I typed in earlier. I hope you saw that. So how would you encourage others, feeling the same way as you when you're back in your urban homestead that wasn't a homestead, I guess is the right way to say it.
Yeah.
Excuse me. If people all the time, I'm sure, say things like, I'm not in a place to do that, but I really want a homestead.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to those folks to encourage them?
Just start somewhere. Find one thing that you can do that your heart set out for. One big thing that I really wanted to do was to, like, let's take, for example, goat milk. I really wanted to try goat milk because that's on my list of animals because I don't want a dairy cow. That's just too much for me. So I thought a good replacement would be a goat cow or a milking cow. Wow, a milking goat. So I connected with farmers in my area and homesteaders, and I actually went with my son and we milked goats, and I got to take the milk home and try it. And I wasn't in a place that I could have goats, so I just found people in the community, and it's amazing how homesteaders will offer advice and share anything that they have that's available, and just making those connections. Like, when we moved here, I didn't know any farmers, and I just asked people around. I'm currently, I think I'm too late to the game, but for turkey for Thanksgiving, and like finding somebody, and everybody that I've been asking is sold out for this Thanksgiving, but just making those connections. If I can't grow my own meat now, let me connect with another homesteader or farmer to get that meat from them versus going to the grocery store.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's the thing, getting out there and experiencing everything and learning what you want and don't want. I know that
Mhm.
folks in the chat are used to hearing me. I go back and forth with goat's milk and goats because I love my pigs, and Gwyneth Broke Cowgirl was saying goat milk is awesome and that's a smart thing to do. And it really is. Cat at New York Gal, Florida Heart said that's awesome. And yeah, it is awesome because you want to get that experience and learn more about it. And that's the thing. I did too. I went to our hay supplier and said, "Hey, you've got some Nubian goats. I've been interested in Nubian goats. Would you sell me a gallon of your milk? It's been a while since I've had it that I, don't remember it. I have goat milk in the store, but it's not raw."
Mhm.
And one of the things that I did was I bought a gallon of goat milk from her and I made butter with it, which was what I wanted to do because we don't have little kids here. We don't drink a lot of milk.
Yeah.
So I was like, it was a great experience to be able to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, Tony at Kettle Kitchen. I'm just going to go to the chat real quick, see who we've got in here. Gwyneth Broke Cowgirl. She's got a bunch of goats. She researched how much milk each breed produces and found that Nigerian dwarfs would be plenty for us.
Hmm.
And it is. She gets overrun with milk and makes cheese weekly. That's awesome. And I think that's an important thing to do is, to try things out before you do things.
Yeah, I actually a couple times this summer farm sat for some people. I reached out and I said, I don't know what I'm doing. I will be honest, but I can fill feeders and collect chicken eggs and things like that. And a couple of the people were like, so excited to find somebody that that way they could go away for a weekend, and it taught me, and I got to like see like, the dirty of it, and understand a little bit more like what goes on, during the day and at night, and what precautions you need to take at night and things like that. So it was a really cool opportunity that I got to do over the summer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We are just eternally grateful to a woman who is now our friend. But at the time, it was funny. It was one of those weird connections, right? I had contacted somebody who had Kuni pigs. And when I reached out to her, like she told me to, in a few months, life changed and she no longer had the herd because, her life had taken a turn and she came down with some health conditions. And she literally said to me, "Is it all right if I give your number to the person I sold them to?" And I said, "Sure, go ahead." Well, lo and behold, I reached out to this woman and she knows who she is and she's amazing. And she didn't even know us and invited us up there to hang out with Kuni pigs. Invited us to her home, which is
Yeah.
about 90 minutes from here. I eventually bought a pig from her. She didn't have any at the time, but I eventually bought a pig from her. But I'm forever grateful to have had that experience, to be, walking around, and she just kept talking about the breed to us, and it just solidified that's what I wanted. And it made sense. I drove all the way across the state of South Dakota to buy 3 pigs.
Yeah.
So hey, Nunya, Texas on the back 20. Welcome in, Jake. And yes, I could make goat milk soap, Cat, with it. I'm just back to the point of if goats get out, I'm just not feeling chasing them. Good night, Team the Ladybug. Hope you feel better. I'm outside of town, but I'm not desolate, like rural. You know what I mean? And so I do have houses around me, and my pigs have gotten out and thankfully not done any damage. They stayed on the property. But I just worry if goats got out and ate people's gardens. I don't know if they would be thrilled with me. Reliable farm sitters are the hardest to find. They so are. That's why we don't really go anywhere, which doesn't bother me, but it's a fact, you know.
Hmm. I know. I
Um,
wish I could find more. But being here this first year, yeah, I was lucky who I could find. But I would love to go and farm sit for people who have cows and other animals just to see. Because, like I said, like I don't want a cow, but that could change. Going and seeing and pigs. I'm like, oh yeah, it would be nice to have pigs, but I don't think I want them. But going and seeing like it could change so much and seeing different people's setups, just
mhm.
learning. I like looked at it as just a learning experience, even though I was there to help them.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's a big difference between commercial hogs and kuni pigs.
Hmm.
It's night and day. I mean, they're both pigs, but it's night and day. There's so many different characteristics, you know. Hey,
Yeah.
Kill It and Grill It, welcome in. Um, Blue Collar Homestead is on YouTube. They're also on Instagram, and you and I could touch base about people I know in Tennessee, and
Okay.
then you could reach out and just see if they wanted to have you come by. But the reason why I mentioned Blue Collar is they've got this tiny little plot of land in Tennessee, and you'd be in awe of what they fit on their land. We're talking huge gardens, um, unbelievable harvest, thousands of pounds of food, um, goats, meat, chickens, you name it. It's unbelievable.
Nice.
I love them. They're just awesome. Yes, Jake, a well-fed pig is a happy pig, and an electric fence helps. I just want to look at my questions. So talk a little bit about, on your channel, you talk about becoming more sustainable and less toxic and, growing your own food. Do you want to talk some about that?
So over the years, again, since I had my son, eye opening on a lot of different things from the food we eat to the chemicals in our homes and things like that. So I've been really working on just simpler ways. Like back in the day we didn't have Clorox and Lysol and things like that, and people used the herbs in their gardens to clean their houses. And I've been, thyme is an amazing disinfectant, so like growing my own thyme and using that in my house and just finding the ways to live simpler and not have to rely on what's sold in the stores and mass produced. And we really don't know what the chemicals are in the cleaning products or even what's in our food. And meat, you wouldn't think, why would why would there be like these chemicals and these additives in me? And now that I've gone down that rabbit hole, I'm like, what? I don't want to eat any of the stuff in the store anymore. Like, I want to know what is actually in this food that I'm eating. And it's just crazy. Once I've started, I'm like, I just want to like live in my own bubble on my land and know what is what.
Yeah. And it's easy to get that way too. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I think that, no matter how much we try to be self-sustainable, I think that that's a pretty lofty goal to reach,
Yes.
right? And I mean, we raise all of our meat, but there's no way we could raise all of our produce,
Hmm.
right? Not with what we have now. And so everything takes that investment, which, costs money.
Hmm.
And then it costs time and all that stuff. Hey, Ann, little Frenchie, welcome in and Growing with Hudson. And so, but I will say this, once you raise your meat chickens and you sit down with your family and you have your first meat chickens, you will wonder why you ever ate food from the grocery store
Yeah.
again. I remember my husband and I, and again, my husband did this stuff when he was younger, but I remember my husband and I sat there and he was just like, it's not grainy.
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
flavor was incredible. And even when we raised Royal Gray broilers this year, just because with all of the illnesses going around with chickens, we had got a little nervous. And when we were in a big box store, we snatched up whatever meat birds we could. And because some states weren't allowing you to ship them in because
Mhm.
of the issues. So we bought these Royal Gray broilers. Turns out we don't like them,
Ah,
but we eat them. They're not bad meat. It's just not
mhm.
our first choice. They're just a little different than the Cornish cross that everybody raises or the Red Rangers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, um,
Yeah. I have been for like a year now getting eggs from a friend and like, a day or two old eggs. And I'm like, I can't buy eggs from the grocery store anymore. Like just the way they look, I can't do it. Like,
yep, yep. Even years ago, I remember when we were a younger family, I bought them locally. And I did a lot of the farm stand stuff because it was just so much better. I remember getting a Yukon Gold potato from a local farm stand down the road, and I became like a Yukon Gold potato addict because I'd like show up and I'd be like, "Please tell me you have more."
yeah.
Let's see. Mr. Blue Collar said, "Chicken plucker is a must." Yeah, it is. I agree. Um, Growing with Hudson is in Tennessee. And she is also growing, and I always give her this shout out because I'm just in awe of her because she grows and gardens at her small urban setting, right? She also she has an orchard at a friend's house in their yard.
Nice.
How cool is that? She
Yeah.
got a deal on these trees and she said, "Hey, can I
That's
plant these in your yard?"
perfect.
I love it. I love it. Um, Oh no, Gwen, you had to buy eggs. First time you had to buy eggs in 10 years. Yeah, the other day, ever since our flock has had their struggles, and now a bunch of them are molting. Um, I was looking at Ryan and I made a double batch of something and I needed like 4 eggs. And I looked at Ryan and I said, "Well, egg sales or do I go buy eggs?" And he's like, no, our eggs." I
Yeah.
was like, okay. That's funny. I just want to look on our list of goals. Do you mind if I throw it out there for some questions right now,
Sure.
if that's okay?
Sure.
Anybody have any questions for Tiffany? I'm going to give you guys a chance to throw that in there. While we're waiting for them, what did you try to grow in your green stock?
So I bought and I always say it wrong. I don't know if it's garden tower or tower garden. And there is a compost bin in the middle of it. And so I had to buy red wiggler worms and learn all about composting also.
Wow.
And so the company actually gave kind of a guide of what to grow. So I grew a bunch of herbs in it. I grew strawberries, cucumbers, green beans, I tried to do like summer squash. They didn't work. Um, of course, I can't think now that you're putting me on the spot of what
It's
else was in
okay.
there. But my herbs worked the absolute best. I got a ton of strawberries. They were really little, but now I've learned that the first year for strawberries, you shouldn't let them produce, that you should let them grow their roots. So I learned. But once the runner shot off, I actually planted all of the runners. So my entire tower, except for the top, is strawberry plants. And I'm debating to let it go for next year and see how it works, or if I'll actually plant those in the ground and use my tower for a like herb garden right at my like back porch. So
Yeah.
trying to figure that out.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, the only thing I can think of, and I know that the green stock is better. I have the Dollar Tree version of the green stock, which is nowhere near
Yeah.
as nice as the green stock.
Yeah.
It dries out like none other. It was probably the worst thing I ever bought. Um, but I bought strawberries this year, and this was their first year. I bought them from a nursery, and they're ever bearing, and they were huge, and it was their first year.
Wow. I'm
And it's
jealous.
crazy. Well, one of the keys that I found was they're heavy drinkers and heavy feeders.
Mm-hmm.
So, they need a lot of fertilizer. I think they need a lot of nitrogen in the spring. And then they needed a lot of water. And before I was working, and we're very dry here, we don't have the humidity. So
Mm-hmm.
what ends up happening is the ground would dry out. And so with me being home this year, it was great because everything was getting watered, and those strawberries, I was joking on my Instagram account that they've been hit with hard frost 5 times. They even had sleet on them the other night. And then the sun comes out and they're like, I'm still here.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
I
crazy.
definitely beginner's mistake. I was like, "Oh, I have a compost with worms. I don't need to fertilize. I don't need to do that because the worms will do it for me." Um, because I didn't read enough going into it, and now I know, like, no, I still need to fertilize everything. Like, the worms is just like a little added bonus, but it doesn't make up for, actually feeding it.
Absolutely. Angie at Abundant Acres wants to know, what's your favorite veg and favorite herb to grow?
So for herbs, I'm a huge basil lover. I can't grow enough basil. I actually thought I killed my basil plant, and somehow, miraculously enough, I started regrowing it. So lucky with that. For veggies, we're big, like cucumber and green bean, and I love growing the strawberries. We eat a lot of those. So anything like those are my absolute favorite to grow. I don't like tomatoes, and that's like the number one thing that people say to grow. So I need to learn to like them, I guess, because I know there would be a huge bonus to like make my own sauce and do all those things also. But I feel like I'm going to grow them and then they're going to go in the garbage or the compost now that I have.
If you don't like them, don't grow them.
I know.
You know what I mean? And that's the
Yeah.
thing. If grow what you're going to eat is always, we grow very basic. We could grow all these fancy things, but it just turns out to be, we need early varieties that come in quick, and we want a bigger harvest, and it's
Yeah.
really just about getting something. Hey, Nancy, our treasured home. And yes, Gwen, thank you for the reminder. I did message Gail. Gail Southern Living is a very amazing woman in the YouTube community. And sadly today, her sister was a pedestrian, got hit by a car today, and she's in a coma. So we do want to send prayers out to Gail and her family. I know that I texted her earlier today to send her my love and my prayers, and that I'm thinking of her and if she needs anything. So guys, keep her in your prayers, please. All right, kill it and grill it. We'll see you later. Hauling corn in the dark. My strawberries did okay for their first year. Hope they do better next year. I do too, Gwen. Usually I have mine covered by now with straw for protection, but not yet. Sarah, a homesteading hustle, said I'm kind of obsessed with propagating basil.
I like want to propagate everything now. Like just want to try it.
So true. It's so true. Been using the frass for my black soldier fly larva as fertilizer. So far, I'm pleased with it. I don't know. I know it's so good, but I don't know if I could do that stuff. Grow Japanese vegetables. Uncle Al said, died Bullfrog 79. He said, grow some Japanese vegetables. Don Ray B said, there are some types of tomatoes that don't taste as tomatoey that Tiffany might like.
I'll have to look into that.
What suggestions do you have, Don Ray B, for Tiffany? That would be great. And there's also, like paste tomatoes and all that you can make. Do you eat like tomato-based products, or it's just the tomatoes you don't like?
We eat like spaghetti, like sauce every once in a while, red sauce, but not frequently. And like, I don't even like ketchup. So it's the whole, yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. To me, it's like, if you're not going to eat it, don't waste your time, because if you like green beans, plant double the amount of green beans.
Yeah.
Hey, Annie's Kitchen, Annette, hello. Hello, Rochelle Brampton Gardner. Rochelle is in Brampton in Canada, and she also has a smaller piece of land, in a more urban setting. And that girl too, she's got flowers and food in her yard. You wouldn't believe it.
That's so fun.
It is. It's awesome. Just going to get caught up on the chat real quick. Yes, I know, guys. Make sure you keep Gail in your prayers. I hope I didn't miss anybody. BSFL. They aren't horrible and they don't stink. That's the black soldier fly larva. Okay. Is it similar to worms where they stink if something's wrong? Black soldier fly larva. Yep. What is Tiffany doing for the first Thanksgiving on the new homestead?
Well, my little family of 3 actually will become 11 for Thanksgiving. We're having my husband's family come and join us. So that's going to be quite a challenge my first month here. And obviously I'm not really growing anything yet. So my husband's family doesn't really like the turkey so much. So they want to do like a ham and a steak also. And so it will be an interesting day. I've already started planning out like what I'm going to make, because I want to make everything. I don't want to like buy apple pie or stuff like that from the store, box stuffing. So I've already been like planning out like how I'm going to like cook for all these people, and how am I going to store everything, and do I have enough bowls, and
and will I be unpacked by then?
Yeah.
So there's some suggestions here for you. Dawn said there's a yellow cherry tomato from Rutgers University that my friend grew that was like eating sweet fruit. She's going to try and find the name. And Dawn,
Okay.
if you find it after, you can message me on Instagram and I'll forward it to Tiffany. German pink tomato is our favorite to eat, and that's from Holman's Homestead.
I'm writing these down.
That's okay. When we do our podcast, I have a notebook all the time. So I'm used to having notes. Brampton Gardner, that was the woman in Canada. Rochelle, she is in a townhouse. Let's see here. Cherry tomatoes are delicious. Chocolate cherry are my favorite. Try mustard greens, Uncle Al said. Tiffany is in Tennessee, Rochelle. And try daikon, Uncle Al said. Daikon radish? He goes by Die Bullfrog 79, but we all call him Uncle Al.
Okay.
Try daikon radish. Have a good night, Q, Growing with Hudson. Let me see here. I'm trying to get to the bottom of the chat. I'm really behind. A good book is, Annette at Annie's Kitchen said, a good book is The Reader's Digest Back to Basics, a practical guide to old-fashioned self-sufficiency. I can put that on the screen so you'll be able to see it.
All right. Perfect.
Butternut squash is another suggestion. Oh, all right. I'm just going to take that off. Let's see. Do you need that title again? Did I take it off too soon?
Nope. I'm good. Thank you.
No problem. It's just hard for me to see down here. So the black soldier fly larvae are actually the cleanest. The frass is supposedly sterile, excuse me. They carry no disease like flies do. None. Cool. I didn't know, Gwen. I just got my bag of grub terra and fed it to my chickens. Let's see here. In 2020, the Rutgers NJAES tomato breeding program released Scarlet Sunrise a tasty bicolor grape tomato. Sun Gold was another suggestion. Hello, welcome to my Cape. Thanks for being here. Awesome, Ariel. I'm glad you're planting stuff. I'm glad that the possums didn't touch it. And Uncle Al said yes, daikon radishes. I'm just trying to get to the bottom of the chat here. Sorry.
It's okay.
I think I went way too far back all of a sudden. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. It went way back. If I missed you guys' comments, I'm sorry. Melon is so far behind the rest of them, and I must have just clicked on something wrong, so I got to scroll back through everything. Bunky, oh, the Vineyard Chicks, lemon iced tomato. They like that. And Mr. Blue Collar said they just picked the last 40 pounds of maters last week. Jeez. Let me tell you, Blue Collar, I got tomatoes this year. I probably have about 9 pounds now in the freezer. 9 whole pounds. And you know that's huge for me. In South Dakota, they turn green and get frozen. So this year, us having 9 pounds of red tomatoes, not to mention how much we ate over the summer, is awesome. Yes, I am super stoked. And I bought Tigerellas for next year and Moskvich because they said that they are really good in 4B. Gwen says her daughter has a volunteer tomato plant. They have no idea where it came from, never grown it. 60 tomatoes on one plant.
Wow.
Man. Brampton Gardner says if you have limited space, I highly recommend dwarf tomatoes. And while you're mentioning dwarf tomatoes, Rochelle, if you will send me the name of the one you grew in the house for the MI grow off, let me know because I want to buy seeds so I can try to do those hydroponically. Uncle Al said white top turnips, fast grower, and sweeter. They'll give you all the answers here. Let me tell you, they are a good bunch of people. They're amazing. Does anybody have any more questions for Tiffany? I just want to throw that out there, but I'm going to move on with her while I give you guys a chance to type. Did you have any questions for anybody out there, like things that you want to know more about resources or anything?
I feel like, yes, I could ask for all of that. Any just basic advice or words of wisdom for somebody starting off. And like if we had mentioned, I'm in Northeast Tennessee. So if anybody knows any resources of good connections of things up here, I just found out about one really good resource that I need to look into, but I know that there's a lot of different, like the cooperative extensions and things like that, that will really be a good thing to know and have.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm just writing down the chocolate Tasmanian dwarf tomato because Rochelle sends me seeds and opens up my world here. Anyone grow leeks? I see them out in nature a lot. I haven't grown them. My dad used to grow them a lot, but I haven't grown them. Anybody have any feedback for Tiffany? That would be helpful. Irene is in Tennessee. I can't think of her full channel name. Well, if you think of it, Rochelle, let me know and I can always pass it on. I know that Holman's Homestead is in Tennessee, and they had, and I know that Blue Collar Homestead is in Tennessee as well. And if you know, I know you're on the spot here, so like if you message me later and say, who did you say? I could easily send that to you because they're on Instagram too. Gwen at Broke Cowgirl said, I was going to mention your county extension agent, also your local master gardener group. Both are a wealth of info. Very true.
I didn't even think of the master gardener.
Yep. Sophie's pick or Sophie's choice, something Sophie's. They turn early. Thank you, Angie. I appreciate you. Huge harvest of wild garlic. Yeah, I remember that, Ariella. Ariella is in Australia.
Oh.
Holman's homestead is in Northeast Tennessee. So that's awesome. Irene's garden and more. I'll write that down because I won't remember that one. Do you know Nikki at Five Dog Farm?
No.
Oh, girl. She'd let you tour her farm. Irene is in the Smoky Mountains. Yep. And some towns have an herb group. Absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah, one of the things that was suggested to me, because we are at 5318 foot elevation, and we just have a very short growing season. It's like 67 days or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. So everything gets started in February and March.
Yeah.
And so it was really sad today when I cut down my cherry tomatoes that I started on March 9th. I had to cut them down because they got frosted, but they, people had suggested going there to find out if there's even like a microclimate in our area. One of the struggles that we have. So that's pretty, it's just really, they do have good information. Well, guys, we're kind of getting to the end. I was going to keep it to an hour because Tiffany is Eastern, and so it's really late for her. And she's got a little one, so she's up early, I'm sure. But just want to throw it out there. Do you guys have any questions for Tiffany or any other feedback that you want to give her while she's here? She's just, I love that you're just so open to wanting to learn things because it's so important, you know, because it's overwhelming. I don't know about you, Googling. Oh,
yeah. Yeah. And that's why I'm all about the books right now. Like just getting these, like I just got the Backyard Homestead book and I had the farm edition, and like my husband's like, I already bought you this book. Why are you buying another one? I'm like, no, this is a different version. Like it's got different information in it.
I think the biggest thing is, and I'm not good at it, so I'm going to be, because my husband will be hearing me and go, why are you giving that advice when you don't even do it? I'm bad. Take notes, like on what you're doing and what doesn't work. So for example, I'm kind of old school. Like I've got my pig breeding and information is in here and my shots and all that stuff, but you can make a spreadsheet. Hey, Nora, the Stock Explorer. Hey, Leanne, Mennonite Farmhouse. Good night, Dawn. And Dawn Ray B said, nice to meet you. She followed you on Instagram.
Oh, thank you.
Good night, Rochelle. Thank you. And yeah, I mean, I think taking notes is key. The other thing is Mr. Blue Collar said, learn everything you can. There's lots of ways to do things. And the other thing is, I'm trying to think. So here's a good example. We had to go look for a stove today. We've been putting it off. And I don't know if some of you guys know this, but they've changed stoves. Now the electric stoves have these safety buttons in the middle of the coil. Okay. Thank you, government. Anyway, so we decided not to buy one, and instead we bought replacement burners. But when you're doing your research, right, you've got the glass top stove and you got to watch out for canning. I've got cast iron pans. I don't want to slam it on the stove. And it's like you're doing all this research and you go down a rabbit hole, right? And you still don't get all the information you need online. And so that's why reaching out to people, like I was talking to Leanne at the Mennonite Farmhouse today about some things. And it's just like, you have to reach out to people who cook all the time, say, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. because we're just not in a position to switch to gas yet. It's not something we choose to do at this time. You know what I mean? So Mr. Blue Collar hates his electric stove. Yeah, you and me both.
We had one in my apartment when we moved here, and I was like, we need a house that doesn't have one.
Yeah. Yep. Best of luck, Tiffany. If you see an empty space in the garden, fill it. Failures are lessons.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. I just want to make sure there's no more questions for you. We struggle with that too. We have a glass top electric stove and is already always crossing our fingers. Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, the propane here is just, it's one more thing that I've got to be relying on. So I don't know that I want to do that. But, well, Tiffany, I just want to say thank you so much for coming in tonight and being so open and honest with us and sharing your experiences, because I've really enjoyed your account on
No,
Instagram.
thank you.
Yeah, it's just been really good. I mean, and I think that everybody in the chat, it was nice for you to meet everybody. And we wish you so much luck in your future new homestead journey.
Thank you.
But all right, everybody. Well, we're going to do a short live tonight, guys, because we got a lot going on this weekend. But I want to thank everybody for coming in to the chat tonight and for being here. And I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And folks are saying it was nice meeting you, Tiffany.
Yes, thank you.
And one last thing, Bro Cowgirl said, check out Roots and Refuge. She's a wonderful gardener and has a great new book out.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I will see you backstage in a minute, Tiffany. Good night, everybody. Have a great evening. And thank you again, Tiffany. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.